grappling with the grappling dummy, it drastically improves your game. Whether we're talking about motivate you to become a beast on the mat. Welcome to the BJJ Counselor Podcast. I'm Bakari Akil. So today what I want to do is talk about grappling dummies and how they can help you become a beast on the mat. Imagine that it's 11 o'clock at night. You're in bed and you're thinking about something that went on in Jiu Jitsu class, or you're thinking about a technique and it's just bothering you. You can't figure it out. You can't visualize it. The only way that you're going to be able to figure it out is you need an actual body to use so you can work it out. Now, I had this problem maybe about 2 weeks ago, and I was sitting there trying to think about what it was. I was thinking about jumping to reverse knee on belly, spinning around for the triangle, and then going through the sequence in order to get the triangle. And for some reason, I couldn't get the leg placement right in one part of the technique. It was bothering me, and I would say I spent at least 15 minutes thinking about it. And so finally I said, you know what, let me get up. I went to the dummy, pulled it out, jumped on it, reverse knee on belly, figured it out within seconds. You know, it was one of those things, you have a mind fart, you forget something, but then you can go and you can figure it out quickly. Otherwise, I would have had to wait until I went back to class. And since it was the weekend, that would have been a while, okay? Now, that is something that all of us face as grapplers. We're trying to figure out how we can become better, how we can work out situations that we don't have access to in our homes because we don't have an extra body or somebody willing to work with us. Now, we all want to become better grapplers, and that's why I want to talk to you about a grappling dummy. Now, I have many different types of grappling dummies. I have 4 in total. I have the ones that I want to talk specifically about today are the Grappling Smarty, the XL. That's the one that's 6'1" in length. Then I have the TJ grappling dummy, and that one is 5'7", maybe you can use that for people who are shorter. And I had to buy the XL because I'm a taller person, so I had to get it for that. And then I have the Pro Submission Master, through Bob Dorse, and many of you guys have seen that on my website, Mouthguard Comic. And then also I have a what is that? It's one that's more just flat. It just kind of lays there as well. But for people who are familiar with my channel, you've seen that dummy as well. The other thing that I've done as far as with grappling dummies, I've created a lot of them on my own. If you guys, I'll leave the link to one of my YouTube channels where it has, thousands, about 10 to 14,000 almost on each one of the videos where I went through the steps of me actually creating a dummy. And this was years ago, 10 to 13 years ago, where I was creating dummies for my own use. But the technology has increased a lot since that time. So that's why we're here today. Additionally, I studied a number of papers, academic journals, referee publications on learning. And what I want to do is also talk a little bit about that and how that refers to grappling or references to grappling as well. Now, today, what I want to do specifically is talk about how, owning a grappling dummy can increase your grappling ability. And the way that I'll discuss that is through a number of ways. Is one, you need the right type of dummy, the technology of grappling and of grappling dummies and how it's changed, how you can work on what you want with the grappling dummy, and then how it can drastically improve your game. So now that we're clear on the type of dummies that are out there, let's talk about how it increases your training time. So no other sport is approached, in my mind, the way that we approach grappling. For some reason, it boggles me that if you look at how grappling is structured, mostly BJJ classes, you may find this in other grappling sports as well. However, we go to class, and then after we leave class, we don't do anything else until we go back to class again. And that's not everyone. We have the people who consider themselves professionals that are training all the time. But then for the most of the people who don't want to become competitors or people that want to compete, then what you find is they go to class and then that's all they do. And then they ask themselves, why am I not getting any better? Why am I not improving? And if you think about it, think about all the other things that you've done in your life where you wanted to improve. Some things you never went to class for. You never had anyone teach you. But what happened? Once you started to do it, you had this dogged, perseverance that you use in order to become good at it. If you think about other things, other sports, let's say basketball, for instance, would you only go to basketball practice and then not do anything else? No, that would be crazy. People who play basketball, what happens is probably, if they walk to school, they dribble their basketball to school. Then they play basketball with their friends who don't play for the basketball team at the school in the morning. Then they go to practice, and then when they go home, they dribble on the way home. They go to a park, play recreational basketball with the guys at the park. They go lift weights outside of the practice that they've done, trying to improve their jumping ability, things of that nature. It's a nonstop cycle of trying to improve. But why, when it comes to jiu-jitsu, do we only go to class? You could even, let's talk about piano playing. Imagine any of you guys ever had a strict or stern piano teacher. I had one, when I played piano for a while as a child. Imagine her giving you the lesson. You start, you play, for your 30 minutes, an hour, however long your lesson is. And then you don't practice again until you go back that following week. Your piano teacher will eat you alive because you haven't done anything except for just go to class. There's so many things that you're missing and that you're going to leave. And that's why grappling dummies are important, because it allows you to get that extra training that you wouldn't get, outside of class in any other way. Now, that's one thing. Let's talk about durability. The reason it also gives you some extra training time is because even if you can't find someone to train with outside of class, they're only going to allow you to do certain things so many times. And the sessions are only going to last so long. There's only so many times that another person is going to allow a person to throw them, to put them in certain holes, to put them in certain chokes, because our bodies are only so durable. And durability is essentially what I'm talking about. You can use your grappling dummy for as long as you grapple. And I've put my grappling dummies through some paces, and you have to treat them carefully because you don't want to, rip them off at the seams, but they're very durable and they will last a long time. And you can do the techniques that you want to do for a long time. Now, also another thing that you can do is you can work both sides. You can become an ambidextrous grappler. Often when we're grappling in our schools or academies, wherever the case may be, you only train one side. And that's for a number of different reasons. Time constraints. Your professor may not want you to train both sides. They want you to train, one side and get the hang of that. Or you may be ashamed to do more than one side as when it comes and it's related to grappling. You don't want to do more than you don't want to show your weakness as it, relates to your grappling ability from one side to the next. So your grappling dummy will allow you to become an ambidextrous grappler, and you can get that kind of training as well. All right. So no matter what kind of, approach you may take to training, whether it may be, let's say, whether it's deliberate practice or the ecological approach, or whether you like block practice or space repetition, or if you're a person who likes, let's say, interleaving your methodology when you're doing your training, whatever approach you like to take, you can also do that with your grappling dummy, so you can increase the amount of time that you have out there training as well. Now, so we talked about the extra training you can get. Now let's talk about doing what you like. Now, no matter what's going on at your academy, whether it's you're training a couple of moves, when you go there and you start rolling, or if you're training 10, 15 moves and then you go ahead or techniques and then you start training, there are things that you will not be able to work on that you would like to work on at your gym. There's no gym that's going to be able to give you everything that you want. Your training dummy will allow you to do that. Your grappling dummy will allow you to work on things that you don't work on at your academy. Say, for instance, if you like leg locks and they don't work on leg locks. Let's say if you like to work on, controlling the back, or if you only work on one thing at a time at your gym and you say, well, I want to work on more than one thing at a time. I want to work on a number of things at a time. You have the preference of being able to decide what you want to work on with your grappling dummy. And specifically because the grappling dummies, the technology has changed so much, you can do a lot more with your grappling dummy. Let's talk about that for a second. So with the grappling dummies that are out today, I told you about the ones that just lay flat and you can't do anything with them. Let's talk about the grappling smarty. The grappling smarty that I have, when you lay it supine, the arms stick up like this, and also so do the legs. You think of a roach when it's laid up like this, they stick up and you have to actually move them. So if you want to work on an X pass, if you want to work on getting an underhook, you have to actually move that dummy to do so. You can sit it up and it'll hold position like someone in guard, like you're sitting up like someone sitting up in open guard. You can put it in the turtle position and it's laying on its elbows and knees. You can work your truck positions. You can work on entering the front and getting your guillotines, whatever it is that you want. It stays in place, does not move until you move it. Additionally, you can put it in guard. You can take it in and work from back positions. There's so many different things that you can do with the submission, the grappling smarty, and then also the TJ grappling dummy that I mentioned to you guys, that now there's really no excuse not to buy a grappling dummy and say, oh, they just lay there, it's hard to use. In the past, I've used the heavyweight bag, where I would get on the heavyweight bag and I would work mount, going to side control, going to north-south, going back to the other side control, jumping reverse knee on belly, reverse knee on belly, spinning around to mount, holding it within my guard, working on my core, pulling it in and out, those kinds of things. That is what you can do with just a regular heavyweight punching bag. Imagine what you can do with a dummy that can lay supine and it's up like someone's actually trying to prevent you from coming in, or can sit up in open guard, can be in turtle, you can work from the back and do all kinds of techniques. Imagine what you could do with a grappling dummy such as that. When we talked about getting back to preference and talking about what you want to do, working on holes in your games, those kinds of things, there's another aspect of grappling that occurs all the time. If you train a lot, it's you watch technique on a video, instructional, or you see something out there in a book, magazine, whatever the case may be, and you want to try it out. However, you can't try it out until you go to class. You don't have anyone you can work it out on. You can only go over it in your mind. So what happens? You have to wait till you go to class. And then when you go to class, you have to bring someone in and say, hey, can I work with you for a second? I remember when I was at 10th Planet, there was a guy, Jesus, I used to always ask him, he used to always ask me, hey, let's work on this. And then sometimes we'd have to think about, okay, what would I do next? Because you're trying to carry that information with you when you go there as well. So here with the grappling dummy, what you can do is you automatically start working on it, and you can get to nail it down. And when you get to the class, you can still ask someone, hey, let me try it out, but you're doing it from a much more advanced position. Or you may even have it down where you can actually do it in an actual roll. So you want to make sure that, if you get a grappling dummy, you can do that as well. All right. Oh yeah, before I go on, let me talk to you guys for a second. See this leg locker tee that I have here and this rank bracelet that I have in brown belt here. You can get that at Mouth Guard Tees. They're sponsoring what we're doing here today. We have all types of shirts for the kind of grappler that you are, leg locker, wrist locker, heel hooker, whatever it is that you do, and just representing grappling, and you want to do it in a low-key way, go to Mouth Guard Tees, all right? Okay, so now we talked about how grappling dummies give you the autonomy to, have the preference that you want. Let's talk about how it can motivate you to become a beast on the mat. All right. So grappling with the grappling dummy, it drastically improves your game. whether we're talking about your conditioning, if we're talking about your strength, if we're talking about your flexibility, your mobility, moving around, your body movements, dexterity, all these things are improved by you working with a grappling dummy and working in the right way. There are things that the Grappling Smarty can weigh anywhere from 55 to 65 pounds after you fill it up. I know my TJ, I stuffed it kind of heavy, so I would say it's about 55, 60 pounds as well. And even though that may not seem like a lot, it's dead weight. And so you have to move it around, and it's very comfortable for me to move it around. And it's just enough weight where I can have a little bit of resistance. It's not like I'm just throwing something around easily. It feels realistic to me. Okay. Also, with the Grappling Smarty, one thing that I want to mention is that it has the realistic neck here. It's articulated, it's out. The joints, it has a hand where you can, actually pull back, on the thumb. It doesn't have, the phalanges that are separated like that, but you can, it's articulated to the point where you can actually use it and feel like you're using something real. Elbow joints, for flexing out different ways. And what I do is I alternate. I use the TJ one day, the Grappling Smarty the next day, because what it does is allow me to have different body types, different sizes. And so I can work on getting those different feels that, just like you're working in class, you want to work with different people. Now, we talked about those basics in terms of strength, flexibility, body movement, because you're learning how to use different angles, etc. Let's talk about how it's improved my game. Now, as I'm a brown belt in Jiu Jitsu, I've been doing a long time. Also, I have experience with judo as well. And so what I do when I approach my grappling sessions, and I do this every day, is I work on throws. I'll do, my throws where I don't have a person. And I'm not using a grappling dummy for the throws, but I work on my takedowns before I start. And then I vary different things, such as I'll, pretend I'm working, out of a mount, or, someone's trying to pass my guard before I start with the grappling dummy. And I just do that and vary that up a little bit. So that's not missing in my overall game. But when I actually touch the grappling dummy, I don't stop or don't let it go until I've completed the number of, subs, techniques that I want to accomplish. And so what that has done for me is, the first thing is I can chain together techniques nonstop. I can stay on my dummy and continue to do movements, and it has to make sense, and it has to, you can't let it go, and it has to make sense. I can go nonstop until I decide to stop. And before, I wasn't able to do that. I would have to continuously think, what am I going to do next? But I noticed after a couple of weeks with the grappling doll that I was sitting one day and I just started to think about chaining techniques together. And, usually I could, chain 7 or 8, when I started first focusing on that without the grappling dummies. And I could come up with, okay, I can do this 7, 8 techniques. But now, when I first tried it after a couple of weeks, I could go nonstop. I had to actually stop thinking of technique. I just say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore, because I just kept naming techniques that I could go from one to the other, from the top of the body to the lower part of the body, leg locks back up top again. And that is something that, using a grappling dummy allows you to do. It allows you to be able to chain movements together, allow you to be able to, transition when you're in a scramble with a person, how those scrambles will go. That has become a part of my game as a result of using the grappling dummy. And I think that will become a part of your game as well. Also, my squeeze has become lethal. One of the things that the grappling dummy allows you to do is it allows you to work on your squeeze and how you can tighten it up and make it stronger. A person is not going to allow you to do that for long. When sometimes when you just put a choke on a person the first time, they're like, making all this noise. So what do you do as a person when you see that? Well, you're I'm going to ease this up. You're not going to work on that tightening it up, because, hey, if I do this more than once or twice, the person's going to say, hey, man, lighten that up. So with the dummy, that's not the case. You can squeeze and you can feel, start manipulating it till you get to the point where you can get it to that right spot and then squeeze, and then you feel a power. You can actually feel a power in the squeeze. And that's what you develop with the dummy. And what I've noticed is when, locking on heel hooks or, different chokes, or, whether it's, head and arm chokes, hug chokes, Ezekiel chokes, whatever the chokes may be, that tap comes a lot quicker. Learn how to apply the pressure when you have the great popper and you wrap that arm around and you're squeezing, those they become a lot quicker. And I guarantee you that's something that you want to develop as a grappler. Additionally, I talked about my leg locks have become smoother. I would say that my leg lock ratio or tap ratio has increased, maybe 3 times what it used to be, because I can literally get on the grappling dummy and I can do up to like 50 leg locks, just passing one to the other, just going back and from one leg to the next, learning how to go from one leg to the next. I spent 3 years at, one of my academies. That's all we did. Every single time we went to class, we had leg locks. We worked on leg locks every day in the warm-ups, in the technique section, in the grappling sessions, leg locks, leg locks, leg locks. And so even with all of that experience, I was able to increase my leg locking ability with the grappling dogs, because like I said, you can go until you don't want to do the leg locks anymore. You don't have to worry about if you squeeze it a certain way or angle your body a certain way that you're going to break the person's leg. You can develop not only your squeeze, but your angling of your body. Because a lot of times when you're working with someone, depending upon how flexible their knees and ankles and et cetera, are, you can't really go all of the way. Sometimes you can just wrap up a person. They're like, whether that person is actually feeling it or they just don't want, they're like, hey, I don't like leg locks and I'm not going to let you go any further than that. But with your grappling dummy, you can do that. I'm much smoother in terms of moving from position to position. As I mentioned before, when I grab my grappling dummy, I cannot let the dummy go. I have to hold it, and it has to make sense. The transitions have to make sense, and that keeps you, because a lot of times in grappling, when you're grappling with someone, you'll jump from one position just to go to the next, and then that person can escape. No space. I don't, and I don't leave any space when I'm using my grappling dummy, and that has transferred to the gym when I'm working with people as well. Those transitions are smoother. I'm moving from space to space. I know where to go and how to hold on to a person in many different positions, and it's only going to increase as I use the grappling dummy. As I mentioned before, I use it each day. So, following that, we're talking about how you are steps ahead of your partner. So when you use the grappling dummy in that way, you become steps ahead. As I said, I've been doing this a long time, and you find that you're able to go even further than your class will allow, because when you're working with a dummy, you can do things that you can't normally do in class. So I find that I'm steps ahead of people because I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. Say, for instance, when I work on my arm locks, I apply 10 different arm locks, many different arm locks. So, you go one way, you're resisting, I'm going the other way. I keep moving, changing, doing things to see if I can get it. And then, if you're going to go from one technique to the other, you're jumping up from that arm bar, you find a way to get up, I'm wrapping that triangle around you. So it's a number of different things that you discover how to do it, or if you've known it before, you discover how to successfully do it because of the grappling dummy. Of course, you have to modify it when you're working with a live person, but that thought process, the concept is already there. You know how to do it. Okay. One of the other things, I talked about is, you can work on different things that you want to, it gives you that discipline to work on the things that you want to work on. In addition, like takedowns, working on, even if it's just standing up, doing a technical stand up, those kind of things, stretching. One of the things that I found that I've been able to do because I practice with my grappling dummy every day is I can work on my stretching. It just gives you that discipline to do other things. I don't try to do it to the point where it's too much. It's just a little bit of those kinds of things added in with what I want to do with the grappling dummy that helps me keep improving. The main thing is I have to work with that grappling dummy, and then all those other little things I can kind of sprinkle in there in order to improve my grappling. So I hope that this has convinced you to try out a grappling dummy. I have the Grappling Smarty, which I bought unfilled for $249. Just the XL. The regular one is probably cheaper than that, but now they sell the Grappling XL Smarty for $220. And it, the polyfill is a few bags per dollar. Few dollars per bag. And what you do is you fill it up to here from the hands down. And the same thing with the legs from the feet up to about the same part on the shin. And then you use small pieces of clothing that you cut up that you can put in there. That saves you a lot of money. Or you can just buy it if hey, you want to just ball out, because the value is worth it that you get out of it. Also, the TJ I bought it was either $109 or $119. I bought that from Amazon. And it was, if you're going to order from Amazon, make sure that you order where Amazon fulfills the order. Don't order it from a company you don't know how it's going to be fulfilled. They don't give a date. They say in between this date and that. No, order it from Amazon so you can get a date that it's going to be filled and that it's going to give you the right amount of time in order to receive it. Now, we talked today about the types of dummies, the technology of dummies, how it helps you increase the amount of training that you have, how it allows you to work on what you want, and then how you can drastically improve your game and become a beast on the mat. Using a grappling dummy will allow you to decide who you want to be on the mat, and don't let the training rule you, you rule it. Thanks, guys, for listening to the podcast. Don't forget to go to mouthguardtees.com for the gear, and also our Patreon, Jiu Jitsu 365, where we not only analyze your grappling videos. I've analyzed thousands of grappling videos. You can see mine at Mouthguard Comic, the YouTube channel, also on Instagram. We also show techniques, throws, takedowns, different subs that you can use. Check it out there. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Peace. Talk to you later.